Great. Good afternoon, good morning. This is Mark Johnson from Loyalty360. Hope everyone's happy, safe, and well on this wonderful Friday afternoon. Wanted to welcome you back to another edition of Loyalty Live. Sorry, had a little hiatus this week with all the award pieces from the conference. But as you know, in this series, we talk to the leaders in customer channel and brand loyalty about what they're seeing regarding technology trends and best practices that impact a brand's ability to derive unique experiences, measurable engagement, but most importantly, customer loyalty. In our new series, what we've done is we've taken some of the thoughts that we get from our brand community with regard to challenges or opportunities they see. We have periodic, what we call small-sided meetings, and brands pretty much lead the discussion and talk around disparate topics. And this one happens to be around corporate social responsibility. We had a meeting with them about a month ago today, and they discussed a lot of challenges they are having around social good, what works, what doesn't work, how do you measure it? So that's what we're going to have the pleasure of talking to Carlos Dunlap today, who is the Vice President of Loyalty Solutions for Clarus Commerce. Carlos,
hey, Mark. I'm good, man. How about you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
So thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Obviously, you're one of the vanguard of the industry, been around for a number of years, launched a number of successful programs. So looking forward to this discussion.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So as you know, there's a good deal of discussion right now around corporate social responsibility, social good, and brands getting behind these efforts. As a thought leader in this industry, what are you seeing at a high level pertaining to corporate social responsibility and customer loyalty?
Wow. Well, even prior to this year, we saw more of a shift towards, social responsibility. And we think that's a shift in the right direction. I mean, more companies are realizing the importance of their social imprint, which is great. But obviously it can be better, like pretty much anything else in life. I mean, out of all the loyalty programs out there, though, only a small portion of them really incorporate, elements of CSR in their programs. So there's an area of opportunity for improvement. But a lot of big companies out there are doing a lot of, just doing great work. That's things people like Google and Johnson & Johnson, Netflix, Microsoft, Starbucks, Disney. A lot of them are really doing an excellent job. I mean, they're really successful companies. So yeah, it makes sense that they're doing the right things. But a lot of these things are things they don't necessarily have to do, but they're doing them, which I think is pretty cool. Like Netflix giving 52 weeks of paid parental leave, and Google really focusing on social justice and limiting their energy usage in their data center, and also donating $1 billion to other businesses that support renewable energy projects rather. So yeah, I think all those things are pretty fascinating and pretty cool.
Okay, interesting. So one of the challenges we heard in the meeting is aligning kind of the CSR efforts, and you mentioned some of them with the loyalty program, right? Whether it's you look at some of the things that DSW is doing with dropping off shoes, some of the things that Patagonia does with investing back in the environment. Obviously, some of them are truly aligned with the brand. Sometimes there's some challenges in alignment, right? It's maybe more marketing per se, right? They know that's something they need to have, and there may not be a great alignment. Can you give us a couple of examples where you think there is great alignment, and how do you go about getting to that versus, putting corporate social responsibility as part of the program, but it may not be a good fit, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the loyalty program should be aligned rather with CSR efforts. CSR efforts could be a part of it. You mentioned DSW, and yeah, they do a great job. Warby Parker does a great job. Tom's historically has done a great job. I mean, their whole brand, it's kind of their brand or their business or their is aligned with their social consciousness. It's yeah, we want to do well. We want to put out great products and services, but we also want to support those in need. We want to support a wider range of constituents than just our customers, but those in need or the economy, or again, I mean, not the economy, but the oh, good Lord, my old timers is kicking in, but support just, the environment. That's what I'm looking for, the other E word. the environment, supporting, just reducing, carbon footprint. There's just a lot of initiatives out there, including social justice and other things that have really bubbled up this year. So it's absolutely essential, because I think you look at consumers, especially millennials and Gen Z. I mean, they want to shop with brands who they feel are dedicated to giving back, particularly with the causes they also believe in. So it's important, and I think it's also a great way to drive increased brand affinity.
Okay. Interesting. One of the discussions we had with the meeting was around, looking at it from a viability perspective, getting their executive level management to kind of buy in, to make sure that it works initially and going forward, and measurability, right? A lot of the brands said we do it, but yeah, we know there may not necessarily be a return that's measurable, but they feel like it's something they have to do. What are you seeing in regard to that? Are you seeing anything with your clients and, how they're managing that initial executive level buy-in, how they're sustaining that, and how they may be looking at, profitability or, sustainability?
Whew, yeah. There's a lot going on there in that question.
Right.
But sometimes, man, sometimes it's just the right thing to do, So there's many ways of looking at it. It's, can we do something that's measurable? And doing something like, a CSR initiative, especially on a grander scale, you're talking about environmental impact. You're talking about changing, equality, in the U.S., much less the world. You talk about, fighting hunger, disenfranchisement, a lot of other things. Those aren't things that just change overnight. So measuring them is a bit more difficult than just, than it is in a loyalty program. So sometimes you have to, what we recommend is get the measure of your employees and of your customers, talk to them, surveys, focus groups, whatever else it might be, and then pick the causes that align with your brand, and then commit. So if I were to give advice, that would be the advice I give. It's a matter of doing nothing these days is not really an option. I mean, it's an option, you can do it, but it doesn't benefit the brand in any way. But doing something is preferable than doing nothing, and doing it well, being committed to it, is just as important as, it's extraordinarily important. I'll just leave it there, because lip service in an email just doesn't cut it.
Okay. What about authenticity? You kind of talked about that a little bit there. Obviously, a number of great causes out there. Authenticity, is that something that should be considered with regard to kind of the brand, or is it just, if most causes that you should get behind should have some sort of kind of authentic goal, purpose, focus?
Yeah, definitely authenticity is huge. I mean, it's yeah. So when we think about just opportunities to do the right thing and to do something that really matters, I mean, you can look at a lot of different organizations out there. You can look at what Sleep Number is doing. In fact, I think we just interviewed Sleep Number for a blog article about a couple of weeks ago, and then I think I saw in your newsletter, in the Loyalty360 newsletter last week, that Sleep Number is participating with Make-A-Wish to do like bedroom makeovers to help immunocompromised children find like sanctuary, especially in this shelter-in-place environment that we're in. So, in addition to that, Sleep Number is also doing something where their Sleep Number Insiders program, where members can donate Inner Circle reward points to provide additional donations to Make-A-Wish. Now, that seems to me to be pretty authentic. I mean, my guess is that they're doing it to get a lot of the points donated to increase the overall impact to Make-A-Wish, but that's also a measurable way to see how well the partnership with Make-A-Wish is being supported by their program members. So Yeah. Is it real? Is it impactful? Is it authentic? I think it checks all those boxes.
You mentioned earlier communication versus sticking an email and making sure that that's again that word authentic, but not just to stick something in email. How do you manage communication for kind of corporate social responsible program efforts? Should you assume that everyone's going to be behind it, or is it really about personalization, like any other thing with in customer loyalties, understanding those who are going to be truly advocates behind it and kind of maybe leveraging them from a social media perspective, or how do you manage that communication cadence message?
Yeah, well, communications is a place where a lot of good loyalty strategies go to die. They just, without proper communications, reinforcement, clearly communicating, making it easy, all those things. So brands need to communicate clearly. I mean, like they do with anything else. I mean, um, some of the big companies do a great job, but it's also important to get customers, involved and make sure they understand the brand's commitment. So again, you mentioned DSW earlier. I think I may have mentioned Warby Parker. Um, but when DSW's VIP members donate a pair of like their shoes or whatever at any location, they receive 50 reward points. I mean, this is clearly communicated on their program website. And so there's no ambiguity about it. There's no confusion about it. And the same goes for Warby Parker. Even though they don't have a loyalty program, it's clear that for every pair of glasses purchased, a pair of glasses is distributed to someone in need. So not only can customers feel good about getting a pair of cool glasses at a great value, but they also know their purchase is going to help a greater cause, which builds an emotional connection and deepens a relationship between the consumer and the brand. And neither company feels, and by the way they communicate, by the way they're kind of all in on their initiatives, they don't feel less than authentic, in their CSR efforts. I mean, these initiatives just make sense for their customers and for their brands, and again, they're communicated very clearly.
So when you look at the kind of the selection and charities of a nonprofit that potentially relate and become cohesive part of the marketing mix, or kind of the offering of the brand, how do you get it to be kind of a natural extension of the loyalty program? And do members view it as synonymous with part of the loyalty program or the brand's overall messaging? How do you achieve that? Because that almost is the kind of that optimal state, that nirvana, correct? So it becomes part and parcel, like some of the ones you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's yeah, it is important. And yes, it is that nirvana, that holy grail. Um, if the charity doesn't line up with the brand, it feels inauthentic, or it just doesn't make any sense to consumers. I mean, so it's not to say the brand shouldn't do anything outside of their normal, like Warby Parker doesn't have to only deal with things having to do with spectacles, or helping people with their vision issues. They could do other things as well. They could help reduce the carbon footprint. They can help, again, social justice things. They can do a lot of other things. They don't have to just stick to their industry. But doing things that align to your brand makes sense. I mean, if you think about what REI does, I mean, they just do a great job with this. I mean, members of the REI co-op loyalty program, I mean, they pay $20 for a lifetime membership, right? So every year the co-op invests in the work of nonprofit partners who help hundreds of organizations improve outdoor access for all. And what's more, for loyal REI customers who hold one of their branded credit cards, REI donates to the National Forest Foundation every time they use their card, which is a great opportunity for any outdoor enthusiast. And again, it just ties into the brand.
Okay. When you look at CSR efforts, how do you tie in the employees piece? Is it something that can be kind of a selling point for employment, may attract new employees or are passionate about a cause or a charity that they're being partnered with? How do you think brands can use this to their advantage on the employee side?
Yeah, employee engagement in this kind of initiative is extraordinarily important, just like it is in a loyalty program. I mean, if consumers show up and employees, don't they don't live out that promise of whatever that initiative is. They don't speak about it. They don't ask the consumer about it. just like in the program, they don't talk about the program. They don't ask the member if they're enrolled in the program. They don't give the level of service that's required of a, program member. Then, yeah, it could fall down. So when I think about, again, someone who's doing it well, I look at Sephora's CSR movement and their initiative, Sephora Stands. I mean, they donate makeup classes to build confidence. They commit to sustainability, and they support inclusion, to name a few of their tent poles in their CSR initiative. I mean, they've also given $150,000 each to Center for Urban Families, National Cares Mentoring Movement, National Black Justice Coalition, National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, NAACP, and on and on. And they've also pledged like $200,000 to more than 40 organizations that are to be selected by their teams, their associates. That's how you get the associates involved. It's like, hey, we're going to show you what we're going to do, but we're not going to mandate you do this, but we're going to encourage you to get involved with the process. And we want you to determine where we spend this other $200,000, or not spend it, but where we pledge and donate this other $200,000. So that doesn't just allow, but it actually leads the way while encouraging employees rather to get involved with the process.
Okay. What about, can it potentially hinder a brand's employee engagement if it's somewhat controversial? Maybe it's something pro-life, or obviously there's a lot of potentially controversial CSR efforts. Is that something you see as well? Is it good to kind of move to the middle, or how should brands look at that? Can it be negative?
Yeah, I guess it could. In my opinion, it can only help, but I do understand, that it's not for all. So maybe it mostly helps. Every initiative is not for everyone. So if I take a step away from telling brands what to do for a minute and just look at what we do at Clarus.
Yeah.
So we've had an initiative called Clarus Cares in place for a number of years. We're able to volunteer, our time, or sometimes donate shoes, toys, and a lot of other things to help the local community. Over the summer, we started a charitable match program where we will match, the organization will match any donations made by employees to 10 different charities. Those are charities that were chosen by us, by the employees, the associates, via feedback process. So I've seen firsthand how doing this keeps our people, keeps Clarus people engaged and committed to the process. In fact, just this morning, I donated and filled out my match form and sent that in. So those of us here at Clarus feel like we're taking part in something that's much bigger than ourselves, that helps the community. And that's, I don't know, it feels good to know our organization supports things that are beyond, hey, let's make some profit.
Okay. That's interesting to hear what you guys are doing, and that's great to hear that you have kind of that pragmatic experience, which obviously is very helpful. What do you see with your clients and some of their approaches to CSR? Yeah, you talked about some things that you're doing at Clarus as an organization, but what do you see from your clients of the amazing programs you run? How do you help them evaluate the causes that they should support?
Yeah. Again, I think about it from a lot of different aspects, but I'm just going to go from current environment that we're all kind of in right now. Right now, clients are asking us to help enable things like charitable donations within their programs. That's been requested by multiple clients because they want their members to donate, but they also want their members to understand and participate in the process. So that's pretty cool. But more than anything, our clients have shown a desire and asked us to find ways that allow them to provide financial relief to program members, to their best customers. So we've come up with things like increasing cash back percentages for purchases with our clients, or for everyday purchases across a network of more than 1,000 retailers. Because right now, especially now, households need every break they can get. and enabling things like the ability to earn cash back for grocery, which is so essential again during the pandemic. And then one of the other things they've asked us to do is, or ask one of the things we've been able to provide and offer, I guess, is providing cash back incentives for spending with local small businesses, which helps both the consumer, obviously, earn something back, as well as helps the small business owner. So, again, that's what we do for our clients, or help our clients kind of enable or empower, power, I guess, their CSR initiatives. And then, of course, we do our thing with our organization and our associates.
Okay. Last question I have, with regard to looking at corporate social responsibility, sustainability, are there a couple, one or two things that you would recommend to a brand who, either maybe looking to do more in that area, or if they have a program that's not working, or some sort of sustainability or charity program that's not working, they're looking to change it up? What would you recommend? For those two different scenarios. We can take the not having one first.
Yeah, well, if you don't have one, now is the time. Now is the time. So many times a leadership team, especially a CEO or so, will have their pet projects or charitable organizations they align with, whether it's Make-A-Wish or Children's Miracle Network or American Diabetes Association. You can do whatever, whichever that is. And make that the corporate initiative, or you can ask,
okay,
your employees for what's important to you. Because what we know is it doesn't have to be one size fits all. It doesn't have to be one organization. It doesn't have to be United Way. I know that they support many, thousands of other organizations, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be a lot of other things, because it's not just about giving money to charities. It's about what you do when it comes to, again, how do you drive more efficient use of your resources and facilities? How do you reduce carbon footprint? Improving labor policies. How do you participate in fair trade? How do you inspire volunteerism, in the community? And then as this year has shown, we've got a lot of unrest with, social injustice and protests and other things. How do we bring that to a point where we can communicate and resolve issues, as opposed to, it's either left or right and there's nothing in the middle? So there's all kinds of opportunity for organizations. So for those who want to do something, it's nothing but green pasture. For those who have one that's not working, I guess you have to define what not working is. Because measuring these things, as I talked about it at the outset, it's kind of tough, because we're talking about big initiatives here. So, it's not just how do I, retain 2% more of my customers or anything. This is a big initiative. Not that isn't, but this is like world changing kind of stuff. So measure where you can, however you can. But if you actually believe, and you're getting maybe feedback from customers, from members, from the organizations, or whatever you might be supporting, that it's not working, then yes, it's time for a change, and go back to the first part of the response that
right.
I gave. But regardless, in all seriousness, though, do the right thing, because there's an opportunity abound out there, and let's do the right thing.
Well, Carlos, this was very interesting, very invigorating. Obviously, very passionate about this, both from a Clarus perspective and your perspective. And I think you brought a great deal of clarity and insight as how marketers should be thinking about it, because, as we mentioned, it is something that's very top of mind. And like always, it's a pleasure talking with you, and look forward to the next time we can connect.
Absolutely, Mark. I appreciate you, Loyalty Dude and Loyalty360. I appreciate all that you do.
All right. Thank you, Carlos. Talk to you soon. And
Take care.